Author MarthaDuSage stepped through the looking glass of dysfunction and sexual abuse to discover an end to suffering, and with over 20 years of practicing heart-centered consciousness, she has helped countless others see their situations in a new light. Martha is a writer, a speaker, teacher, facilitator, and best-selling author of Why Bother? Because Self-Help is Never Stupid, the book she presents today.
Well, this book is about using heart-centered conscious awareness along with mind-body-spirit integration to help us change perceptions around some of the things that hold us back from feeling really good. It's about discovering ways to experience the things that we all would like to experience more of in our lives. And those things would be peace, freedom, fulfillment, love, joy. So while this book was written with the intent of helping victims of abuse, there are many others who are also finding value in the messages. So there are some things that hold us back from experiencing the more ideal factors in our lives. And those would be things like shame, blame, guilt, denial, rejection. So those are the things that we'd like to overcome. So the book is addressing both sides of the coin with the good side. What can make us feel good, and what can we do to not feel so bad? Well, you see, over 24% of the population claims to have been sexually abused before the age of 18, and that's just what's been reported. Most of the people that I know, their abuse was not reported because it's not something that they started to deal with till much later in life. So when you figure that that's 24% of the population is just claiming to have been sexually abused, and then there's so many other types of abuses in our world that we're dealing with, which would be verbal, psychological, domestic violence, there's narcissism, the religious abuse, other types of child abuse, the domestic violence, there's hate crimes. So when you take all those, and the substance abuse as well, drug and alcohol abuse. So when you take all those types of abuses, and then you add that in with that 24% of sexual abuse, it's hard to fathom that everyone on this planet hasn't been affected by abuse in one way or another. And the thing is that, for example, with drug and alcohol abuse, often people that are substance abusers are using that as a way to mask and stay in denial and to relieve the pain and suffering that they experience from a different type of abuse. And then there are times when an abuser or someone who has been abused becomes an abuser because it's a learned behavior. It's an unconscious behavior, but it's a learned behavior. So that's why I say it, with confidence, that I think it's our number one problem in society. The idea of using heart-centered consciousness is really about individual empowerment. We have been conditioned to get caught up in our intellect, and we assume that our thinking would be rational, but that doesn't always happen, and we find ourselves unintentionally lying to ourselves. And what we really need is a good dose of truth and reality. And heart-centered consciousness provides just that, but it has to be practiced in order for it to become practical. So, when we learn to check in with our heart and our intuition, we discover that some of the things that we have been led to believe have actually led us astray. On the other side, there is the perspective that sometimes the heart is overly emotional, but the fact is that when we learn to quiet our mind and focus our attention on the heart center, we learn to calm ourselves and we learn to not take things so personally. Well, the first thing I would say to that would be that it creates a distorted perspective of what love really is. This can occur with or without the victim survivor actually identifying the feeling of being unlovable, but that's exactly what happens. It creates this feeling of being unworthy of love, which everybody on this planet is worthy of love. So then the second part of that is it takes the individual's power away from them. And the more we empower ourselves, the more we empower each individual, the more we empower each other, then we begin to see a conscious evolution. And when we make changes for the better, then people around us start to change. Things around us start to change. Everything around us changes when we feel empowered. And the reason for that is because we start to operate from a place of authenticity and integrity. And I would think that we would all agree that when we operate from a place of integrity, that's something that we can all feel really good about inside. So it creates, a whole different perspective. So imagine the possibilities and the potential if everyone on the entire planet was more empowered. It would certainly eliminate a lot of abuse of power. Beyond that, what affects abuse survivors so deeply is the fact that their feelings have been dismissed. Oftentimes they're not believed when they come out about their abuse. They're called liars. People who don't understand what they're going through will tell them to just let go or just get over it. And that's really not a good thing to say to anybody who is really troubled and suffering and trying to comprehend their own emotional feelings and figure out what that experience of abuse was all about. Many survivors are lucky to have supportive and loving families around them to help them, but there's a lot who aren't so lucky. So for them, it's really important for them to find inner strength and really learn how to break free. When you've been raised in dysfunctional cycles, you don't even realize that it's dysfunctional because it's so familiar. And it's that familiarity that makes it really difficult for survivors to move past what they experienced. That was really a blessing, and it just happened organically. Music has always been important to me, and I was told in a channeled reading a long time ago to become sound adept, and at the time I didn't really know what that meant. But in the writing process, I would turn to Pandora as my inspiration, and it would not let me down. I would be writing about a topic, and a song would come on that pertained directly to what I was writing about. And I would find myself really laughing because I knew that this was divine intervention. And, the idea of this song, along with the message that I'm conveying, just offers a double dose of healing for whoever's reading it. So this is what happens, when we tap into our heart-centered consciousness. When we learn to become aware, things just start to flow. We start to see the messages. We can accept the messages. And it's really a beautiful thing when you really start to see and comprehend how conscious awareness works. There's a lot of people who still think that consciousness, meditation is somewhat what you would call like airy-fairy. But when you start to apply what you can learn from heart-centered conscious awareness, your life begins to flow with grace, speed, and ease. Sound is vibration, and everything that is alive has vibration. And so if sound is vibration, if sound is healing, for example, like ultrasound is a modern technology. It uses sound waves, plain and simple. But listening to music's a lot more fun, and it makes the reading and the healing experience much more interactive and more participatory for the reader. It can take them through the healing journey on a much deeper level because the participation amplifies the healing effect. And who doesn't want more enjoyment in our life? Isn't that what it's all about? So many people are suffering and not feeling good. They're stressed, and the idea is we need to, and we deserve to allow more enjoyment to flow through our lives. And it's well known that we need to hear something more than once before it really starts to sink into our memory, until we really start to digest the messages. And the fact that you're getting the music along with the written message, that's what it provides. It provides a double dose of healing for you. Accept the fact that there is not one easy fix. Each person is going to respond to help, treatment, support in different ways, but take that journey because you're worth it. Everybody is worth taking the journey to heal. I believe that everyone who has come here that has been abused came here to experience those opposite feelings, have those experiences of love and joy come into their lives, and they get to experience it on a more profound level. Exploring multiple methods helps you get really clear on what it is going on inside of yourself. Grounding is essential to the healing process. Oftentimes, because when people are in denial, you're sort of out of body. Survival mode takes you out of body, and that's where the meditation and the grounding and the conscious awareness brings you back into that level of awareness where you can really start to experience your life on a much more profound level. So it's important to connect your thoughts along with the feelings in your heart. Explore whatever is out there for you, whatever shows up for you, explore it, whether it be conventional or unconventional. Try the different ways. There's times when you may feel a little bit worse, but allow your intuitive knowing to show you that there is a better way. The workshop is an extension of a chapter in the book called The Heart Pillar. And the Heart Pillar came to me while I was in the revision process of writing the book. I was in the revision process and I was hearing this voice say, scrap this chapter. And I really thought it was my ego playing games with me. And then suddenly I completely knew differently. And I knew that it was the archangels Gabriel and Raphael that were speaking to me. There was a time in my life when I would not have spoken about that outwardly for fear of being looked at as crazy and rejected. But with all the work that I have gone through to get through my own victimization programming and get beyond survival, I have no hesitation at stating out loud that I know that these angels were helping me, and part of the workshop is for whoever the participants to understand to take their own strength back, their own self-empowerment. And when you know something to be true intuitively within you, which is the intuition is something that we were born with years, when man started, we were much more intuitive beings, and we've lost that through over the period of time with technology, etc. And it's really time for us to take a lot of that intuition back and really start to connect with that divinity that is all around us. So the heart pillar, the intent of the heart pillar is to help survivors get past feelings of being judged or being dismissed. So this workshop is really a multi-sensory experience for the victim survivor to break through the limiting beliefs that have held them back caused by abuse. And the ultimate goal is for survivors to become what I call an enchanted champion. So while the idea of being a survivor and the idea of being a warrior are great strides in moving beyond victimization, the idea of survivor still carries with it that idea that you're in survival mode. And survival mode is not living life to your fullest potential. Warrior is a great step because now you're becoming much more empowered and you're able to stand up for yourself. But the idea of a warrior still carries that feeling of defensive,ness, of being caught up in that battle mode. There's still the feeling of fight. And my ultimate desire for survivors to feel is more at peace. So when you get even beyond the idea of being a warrior and you step into what I like to call the enchanted champion, this is when you really start to feel fulfilled. Because enchanted is magical, and survivors of abuse have no idea what that magic feels like. So, once they step into the enchantment, they can start to feel the magic and the divinity that comes with enchanted. And then champions means that you've really fully overcome whatever you experienced. And if you want to, you can champion a cause. So again, the ultimate goal of the workshop is to help victims, survivors, warriors step into being an enchanted champion where they are completely self-empowered and self-aware. What makes this book unique, besides the incorporation of the music, is the fact that so few in the metaphysical community are focused specifically on abuse. They focus on love, they focus on self-love, but that's not the right starting place for people who have been abused because they feel unlovable. So it's not the right starting point. And my own experience with that is what led me to understand and teach this. When you have been abused, you have protective walls up around your heart. So the idea of looking in a mirror and saying I love you just is not going to work for an abuse survivor. Again, there's these protective walls, and it's about discovering how to break through those protective walls so that they can end their suffering, that they can start to experience what self-love really means. This is why I encourage others to seek peace, because you can have love without peace, but when you bring peace into your life, love starts to flow for you naturally. That's what makes this book unique. Well, that would be on my website at MarthaDuSage2015Video. I have a blog there where I can offer tips to survivors on helping them overcome some of the things they're feeling. The workshops will be announced on the website, and the book is available on the website in both paperback and electronic version. And the other place you can find the book is on Amazon.
Martha's book bridges the gap between self-help and clinical. Combined with her workshops, her words make you feel you are not alone and will help you find your own truth, find peace and love in your lives so that you can begin to experience fully the totality of who you are. You can find Martha's book on various online book retailers and at MarthaDuSage.com.